Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be fuck up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Alrighty, welcome once again to Occultae Veritatis. I am Ood Gallifrey.
Sage Murray!
Leon Filger.
And once again in the studio with us.
I'm Kaylin.
And Richard Bigley.
Alrighty, today we're talking about, well, I'm not sure what the title is going to be. I think it's going to be something along the lines of evolution of religion or religion in the mind or something like that, but in order to get into this esoteric bullshit, we need some poison.
Yeah.
So, what's your poison?
And today we're drinking, once again, selected by my partner Daniel herself, the commander of the podcast credit card. We're drinking Crafty Elk Hard Juice, kiwi and apple.
Fantastic.
Yes. I saw the label hard juice, and I couldn't help but be excited to drink it, actually.
Is that like a fancy way of saying cider?
I think so.
It smells like cider. Oh, because it's organic shit, so they had to pick a fancy name.
Can I have the gnome, please?
Oh, you didn't open...
I don't know, it seems too sweet.
No, that's definitely juice. That is not a cider. No. That is a juice.
Vodka and juice.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't taste any vodka in it at all.
I don't.
Me neither. I'm gonna...
Nope. These are dangerous.
I'm gonna be super drunk when I do my episode.
Yeah, and this has as much alcohol as your average beer, so
4.5%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
More than this other one.
Yeah. I've drank two of that dranken. I've dranken.
I have drank.
You've drunk.
I know.
We're gonna get deep inside our own heads. Like we need to be a little drunk. It's gonna get weird.
Introspection always requires a little alcohol.
Oh,
would you pass me the Timbits?
Oh yes. Bit away, my good sir.
Better get in on those before I eat them all.
Yes.
This is organic, crafty elk hard juice, eh? And where's it brewed? Like it says made in Canada or a product of Canada, but I'm trying to find...
I'm going to assume... Oh, Ontario. London, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah,
London, Ontario.
It's a good drink. Those of you from London, Ontario, good work.
Good work, yes. London, Ontarians.
Yeah, like it was stated, this detects no alcoholic aftertaste, and
A cop is not going to smell this on your breath when he pulls you over.
Yeah.
No, they'll just think you were drinking apple juice.
Yep.
I feel like I'm about to go into like diabetic shock here.
Yeah, it is very sweet. Yeah.
Well, the second ingredient is sugar.
Yeah.
Well, it is juice.
I mean, it's juice, and then like isn't alcohol a type of? No, it's a different thing. It's 7 calories per gram.
Ingredients: water, cane sugar, vodka, prickly pear fruit extract, turmeric, goji juice powder, ginger, caramel citric acid, kiwi, and apple natural flavors, ascorbic acid, and maltic acid.
I cooked prickly pear cactus once when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
I found it growing in my neighbor's yard. I stole it in the middle of the night. I cut all the skin off one side, cut all the skin off the other, seasoned it, put it on the barbecue, and it was delicious.
You say barbecue?
I did.
I always imagine it would be like cucumber-ish.
Prickly pear is delicious.
It's more like pineapple.
Yeah.
Really?
It is so good.
Oh.
This is the picture I was looking for. Everyone look how cute I am.
How old is that?
How adorable.
It was like literally at a wedding this summer.
But yeah, this shit is dangerous. I think it might be a little too sweet for my taste, but it's juice. So I'm gonna give it probably an 8 out of 10. I like it a lot. I could drink way too many way too quick.
I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's just a little too sweet.
I'm going to give it a pedophile mall Santa who doesn't actually act out his fantasies.
Okay.
Out of what?
That's it.
Okay.
It's a 1-to-1 scale.
Yep.
What about you, Richard?
Well, it's really good, but it's
really
very sweet. And I just saw here that each bottle has 180 calories to it. So yeah, make a diet version or something for me, and then we'll talk. But yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
We are mammals. We were cobbled into existence by the same processes of natural selection that shaped every other form of life on this planet. We do have certain hardwired responses that were forged in our evolutionary past, and anybody who thinks that their own behavior isn't at least partly informed by those legacy circuits has not been paying attention. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those circuits today. God is actually pretty easy to find. We think God got started in pareidolia, which is that cognitive glitch that allows you to see faces in the clouds, Elvis in a burrito, that kind of thing. And we think that pareidolia arose as an anti-predator strategy. As it happens, I've just finished writing a novel that explores the functional utility of the religious impulse. So I'm going to steal an info dump from that book to help make my point. Look, Brooks wanted to say, 50,000 years ago, there were these 3 guys spread out across the plain, and they each heard something rustling in the grass. The first one thought it was a tiger, and he ran like hell. And it was a tiger, but the guy got away. The second one thought it was a tiger, and he ran like hell. But it was only the wind, and his friends all laughed at him for being such a chicken shit. But the third guy, he thought it was only the wind, so he shrugged it off, and a tiger had him for dinner. And the same thing happened 1,000,000 times across 10,000 generations. And after a while, everyone was seeing tigers in the grass, even when there weren't any tigers, because even chicken shits have more kids than corpses do. And from those humble beginnings, we learned to see faces in the clouds and portents in the stars, to see agency and randomness, because natural selection favors the paranoid. Even now, we are wired to believe that unseen things are watching us. And it came to pass that certain people figured out how to use that. They painted their faces, or they wore funny hats. They shook their rattles and waved their crosses, and they said, yes, there are tigers in the grass, there are faces in the sky, and they will be very angry if you do not obey their commandments. You must make offerings to appease them. You must bring grain and gold and altar boys for our delectation, or they will strike you down and send you to the awful place. And people believed them by the billions, because after all, they could see the invisible tigers.
Alrighty, so we're going to start off talking about like religions seen in animals and animal behavior. And I'm going to focus on 2 species that come up most often in the literature, and that's chimpanzees and elephants. Now, chimpanzees, they share...
Do you pronounce them chimpanzees or chimpanzees?
I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure how I just pronounced them.
You pronounce the chimpanzees.
I'm good with that.
I'm going to go with chimpanzees.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
We all know it's pronounced chimpanzees.
I'm pretty sure Jane Goodall says chimpanzees.
But it's like pantses, right? Multiple pairs of pants.
And hobbitses.
Those are idiots.
Yeah, so chimpanzees along with bonobos. So Jane Goodall believes that chimps and bonobos are capable of the prerequisites of spirituality. Now, this is observed in wild and captive chimps. Like whether they're living in a zoo or whether they're observed in the wild, they're doing the same things. They dance when it rains, so when it starts raining, they'll get up and start dancing, and they'll also dance when they come to any body of water or waterfall. Some critics say that this is an intense emotion, not true spirituality. And this could very honestly be just that, but a lot of this episode is going to be like, it could be one or the other, because we can't get in the heads of chimpanzees and elephants and ancient people. So
you don't know my life.
Maybe they just fucking hate having wet feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you guys can give your vote at the end of the episode whether you think it was just them experimenting with art and stuff like that, or whether it was true religion.
Which country was it where teenage boys experiment with sex by fucking donkeys?
South America.
Ireland?
Because I watched a documentary on that, and it got me quite excited.
Oh, no.
Ook, are you ready to go?
I've seen that documentary. I'm pretty sure it was South America.
When he would like lead the donkey up into the hills, and I'm like, I bet that donkey pussy is really wet and tight.
Oh.
And I think I would.
My vagina just made the window shut down noise.
Remember, ba means no.
When a chimp dies, whether in captivity or in the wild, members of their species will surround them and engage in a group silence that can last anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours.
Wow.
All of them standing in complete silence, staring at the body. Occasionally, they'll make wailing and unique vocalizations that are really only heard in this context, only heard when they're surrounding a dead body of another chimpanzee. They'll then take turns visiting the body individually. Some of them will kiss the body, some of them will attempt to groom the body, some will, like, pick the hand up to make sure it's dead, and some will attempt to, like, put food in the mouth, and there's a whole bunch, like, it seems like they all individually have their thing they want to do with the dead body. Group members will take turns gazing at the corpse for days and weeks.
That's heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, they don't usually participate in burial, but it seems like they have a big process to kind of go through the death of one of their bandmates. And this displays a sense of self. Now, a sense of self means that you know that others have a mind just like you do, but it can be different than your own. Mm-hmm. So you know that chimp right there, even though he looks the same as you, kind of, he has a separate mind, and now that mind is gone and dead.
Oh.
So it kind of like, it's a precursor. It's one of the tools you need to have a religion.
Yes.
It's kind of depressing.
Oh, yeah. Something else is elephants. So elephants bury their dead. Not only will elephants bury other elephants, they will bury almost any dead animal they come across, which is big enough for them to notice. So they have been known to bury rhinos, buffalo, cattle, hippos, and even humans from time to time.
Cool.
But couldn't this technically just be a survival instinct? Because predators are going to smell dead animal carcasses and come around.
And I considered that, yeah.
It could simply just be a survival tactic and not necessarily a precursor to religious intent.
Oh, totally. And like I said, a lot of this stuff is arguable. And it could be just them trying to, like you said, get the smell of the rotting body away to deter predators. Where it might differ is they pile mud logs, sticks on top of the corpses. Where it becomes, I think, a little spiritual and a little religious is when they bury elephants. So when they bury other elephants instead of just other animals, they'll often add pieces of fruit, flowers, and colorful plants along with the body.
Oh.
So they'll take food that they could feed themselves or others, and plants that they could eat themselves or give to others, and they will put it with the body before they bury it. I'm not sure how to get inside the head of an elephant, but you have to wonder, like, what are they doing? What are they thinking when they're doing that?
We found this group of elephants. They were kind of a resting group. They were all bunched together, and as they started to disperse, we found that their matriarch died. She was an old female. She was estimated to be about 55 years old at the time that she died. The video that we're looking at is 2 to 3 weeks after she died. And so at that point, you can tell that the body is kind of decayed a little bit, and predators have been on it, so most of the meat has been taken off. But the elephants that were there that day in that spot were still really interested in her body. So we're seeing a lot of exploration, and so you can see that these elephants are kind of holding their trunks out and smelling the body. There's a young male called Occultae who is picking up her dried ear and kind of exploring inside her skull and really investigating. And then the other thing that I was just really amazed by was how much standing around there was. You know, elephants don't waste a lot of time in terms of feeding. I mean, they have to feed for about 20 hours a day just to get all the nutrients that they need. But they were just standing there, and they weren't resting, but they were just kind of standing. I thought that was really interesting. If you look for it, you can see that some of the elephants have streaming from their temporal glands. So these are glands behind their eyes that will stream temporin when they have sort of elevated levels of emotion. And so you see them do it when they're really excited, or you see them do it when they're really stressed. And the interesting thing is that, you know, the video that we're looking at, those are not her relatives at all. She knew them. Those are other elephants in the population that also use that area a lot. I don't know if elephants are mourning. When I think of mourning, I mean, I think of that as a term that I only know really applied to humans. You know, if a person I know loses somebody in their life, I can ask them how they're feeling, and they can tell me about grief. I can't do that with an elephant, so it's very hard to know if they mourn in the same way that we mourn. They're very different animals from us.
I'm having like one of those like Bambi's mother just got shot kind of moments. I'm like imagining
Or like
these like cute,
Littlefoot?
fluffy animals, doing this like grievance thing that they did in the cartoons.
When guinea pigs die, especially if they're in a partnership, it's a good idea to take the dead guinea pig and put it in the cage next to the live guinea pig, so the live guinea pig has time to accept the fact that his or her partner is dead before you then take the dead pig out for cremation.
Something else that elephants have been observed doing that's arguably maybe religious, maybe spiritual, maybe just like going towards some kind of supernatural thing is elephants all over Africa and all over India have been observed taking long branches with a lot of leaves, and when a full moon comes out, they'll sometimes spend a couple hours seemingly waving the branch at the moon.
Cool.
Yeah. So you have to wonder, like, what are they doing there?
I mean, it could just be effects of the full moon. Like, my cats go psycho
it could
on
be.
the full moon.
I work in a nursing home, yes.
Yeah, I worked with children for a while. Yes.
Yes. So those are some precursors. So those are some examples of arguably what might be spiritualish stuff in animals. Now the question is, what made humans go that much farther? What made us grip to religion so heartily that we've basically ruled a bunch of history around it? 5 different factors that make it either advantageous or likely for us to develop a religion. So,
monetary gain.
Oh yes, that's one of them. Brain size is the first one. So in 5 million years ago to 500,000 years ago, in our evolution, our brain tripled in size. So, and almost all of the growth took place in the neocortex. So that's the middle part of the brain. That is the part that has thought, language, perception, voluntary movement, and philosophical thought inside of it. Now, just as comparison, chimpanzees have a neocortex that takes up 46% of their brain. We have a neocortex that takes up 85% of our brain. So we have much more capacity to have thought, language, perception, and philosophical thought.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has the capacity when they're born to learn any language. Wherever they are socialized and brought up determines their primary language.
Oh, interesting.
Also determines their primary religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenient that the parent's religion is often the same one as the child.
Yeah.
Less so in contemporary society than it was 20 years ago.
So are you saying that religion is genetic?
In a way, yes.
Well, so is having children, right? It's biological. If your parents didn't have kids, you won't either.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And they've studied animals that all have big neocortexes, and the size of the neocortex directly correlates to the complexity of mating rituals, the complexity of social rituals, the social group size, and the complexity of languages and religions within that group.
And remember, if you have a small neocortex, it's what you do with it, not the size that matters.
Oh boy. Something else that had it is tool use. So, because we have that big neocortex, we have the ability to visualize something we want to make before it exists. And that allowed us to make tools. We could visualize things we want to accomplish, and we could visualize what we need, what kind of tool we needed to create it. The same visualization that allows you to visualize like a tool before it exists, it could be the same tool to allow you to imagine something else that may not exist, such as a god or supernatural beings or monsters or something like that. So the fact that we were able to make tools and make them so effectively shows that we have an amount of visualization that's beyond most animals. Mm-hmm. Again, the third thing is language. Even though you can do a lot of religion through dances and like nonverbal stuff, a lot of the sacred truths are passed down through language, whether it be written or spoken. Mm-hmm. And humans are the king of languages. So the more complex the language, the more complex ideas can be shared, which is why we can pass on complex religious thought, like literally an entire manual, which is supposed to be a manual anyways, right. Like an entire Bible full of instructions on. And language allows for collective beliefs. So without language, you can have individual beliefs. You can have your thing that you think about and that you believe. But if you want collective beliefs, if you want a whole bunch of other people to know, you have to have some type of way to communicate that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So collective beliefs are born from languages. The fourth is morality. So morality, of course, grew out of social organizations. So when you live together in big groups, a lot of people have to restrain actions or alter behavior for the greater good.
Yeah.
Social control over the group, I guess.
Well, personal belief is your own internal, like, compass, whereas morality is more of a social belief in what is right and wrong
for the community,
as a whole, in terms of religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like there's all kinds of social organizations in Naver. Like there's wolf packs, there's whale pods, dolphin pods, like elephant groups and all that.
Lion prides.
Oh yes, lion prides.
Goose gaggles.
Oh yes.
Crow murders.
Businesses of ferrets. And they all have similar things. They all have hierarchical structures. So they have usually people who have more power than others. And usually each group member knows the rules of the social contract within that space. So they know what's allowed and what's not allowed. All great apes have communities that have these things: conflict resolution, peacemaking, cooperation, sympathy and empathy, reciprocity. Say again?
Reciprocity.
Yes. Altruism, deception detection, because in order to live in a society, you got to be able to detect possible deception.
Deception detection is the name of my new rave group.
Community concern, an awareness of rules, and a sense of fairness. And there's been studies done with monkeys and great apes about one monkey being paid like a piece of a potato for a task, while another monkey gets paid a grape. And pretty soon the monkey that's being paid the potato doesn't want to do the task anymore. So they have a sense of like fairness and a sense of mind that like this monkey's getting something that I'm not, because we're separate beings and I could have what he has.
And of course you can take that experiment and extrapolate it in today's working labor relations capitalist nightmare that we currently live in.
Yes.
And apply that same study, and it's just very interesting.
And how does hierarchy play in terms of this?
It allows one person or a small group of people to pass down religion like as a set of rules, because if you have a bunch of people that are kind of like just having their individual beliefs, like one group doesn't really rise up. You usually need a charismatic leader or a thought leader in order to like make a religion stick.
Oh, so like Jim Jones.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's an upcoming episode.
Yeah. But
I've started researching it.
Oh yeah.
I don't care if you guys don't vote for it. I'm doing it.
But
I'm more than happy to help you with that.
But not only Jim Jones, like in today's world, it could be the Sunday teachers, it could be the priests, like really anybody that rises up to be the voice of a god or the voice of a scripture. Now, I listed a bunch of things that all great ape societies have. There's 3 things that humans have that all great apes either only partially have or don't really have. And that's a sense of justice through rigorous rewards and punishments. Mm-hmm. So no other great apes out there have such a rigorous system of rewards and punishments for actions that are deemed to be good and bad. Mm-hmm. We also have a large respect for reputations. Great apes are often quick to forgive and forget within their societies as long as the behavior is followed. We have great concerns with our reputations and histories within humanity. And we have the application of reasoning and critical thinking, so we are able to think through things at a higher level than most other great apes, and reason through why somebody might be guilty or why somebody might be innocent. And religion uses that system of justice to provide motivation to punish wrongdoers, to reward good deeds, and to try to reason through reality. Now, the reasoning may be flawed. Like, you can say, like, rain falls from the sky when a god is happy and blessing us. But
Hail Val.
Hail Valhalla. Yeah, but the internal logic is there.
Peace be upon her.
Peace be upon her. Yes, the internal reasoning is there.
I think, the big question is, why do you believe certain things? Why do you believe in Allah versus Jesus? Or why do you believe in alternative medicine versus conventional medicine? And a lot of it has to do with what you're exposed to, as well as a number of biases that we as humans have that sort of colors the information we receive from the world. A large portion of its geography, right? So if you're born in Oklahoma, you're much more likely to become a Christian than you are a Hindu simply because everyone else around you is a Christian. But in terms of the specifics of our beliefs, they're very, very highly driven by, what we're imprinted with early. So, those people that are around us, as well as the fact that we naturally, as humans, seem to have these pieces built into our brain that want us to believe things that are not necessarily backed up by the evidence. I think one of the things that you have to do if you're trying to help other people see that maybe what it is that they are thinking is not necessarily accurate is you don't go up to them and say, hey, you're wrong. That's a completely wrong thing to do, and we actually know that from research, is it's called psychological reactance, and I'll just say, hey, screw you, I'm double right now. So instead what you have to do is you have to help them understand, why is it that I believe these things, and why is it that you believe what you believe? I'm a huge fan of the scientific method. I think one of the best things that our culture has produced over the last 400 years is the scientific method. And the reason is because what the scientific method does is it takes all of these biases, all these heuristics that we're naturally prone to, and it helps to eliminate them. It helps to control for all the things that we as humans naturally do so that we don't fool ourselves. And that's the key to any sort of real understanding of things, is not just, oh, well, here's my evidence for it. It's, well, here's my unbiased evidence for it. For me personally, it's about seeing the world as it is, not as I want it to be. And I think the world would be a much better place if all of us were trained in how to think critically, in how to think rationally, in how to logically examine questions, and not just find what I want to believe, which is what we do naturally, but find what actually is.
And number 5 is our psychology. So there's a bunch of different aspects to our psychology that make it open to be taken over and be used by our religion. Uh-huh. So number 1 is agent detection. Yeah, so agent detection is detecting like the tiger in the grass. So if you're a hunter-gatherer just going through the grass and exploring everything, you need to be able to detect agents in the grass, to detect something that may want to eat you. Now, this is the thing we talked about before. We know of things that have different wants and needs than we do. Mm-hmm. The tiger wants to eat us. We have to know that thing within our heads in order to avoid the tiger. The religious aspect that takes over that, so how the brain and religion uses that aspect, is that it uses fear of illogical things, which could include the wrath of a god.
Right.
Because 99 times out of 100, there's no tiger. You're just being scared. But your brain still wants to be scared just in case it's a tiger. So it opens that path to be fearful of illogical things or things not likely to happen. Mm-hmm. And religion taps into that. And all these things are ancient parts of the brain which are easily, taken over.
Well, this applies directly to anxiety, right? If you can't complete the anxiety cycle, then you end up with perpetuated anxiety and you can't function.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like ancient...
Just at me next time.
Oh, yeah. It's ancient brain pathways. Like, we're ancient people living in a modern world. Our brains haven't caught up yet. Mm-hmm. Etiology, so forming narratives from signs and events. So if I were to spill this drink on the table, let's say you all covered your eyes and I pour this drink on the table, when you open them again, you would be able to form a story surrounding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you fucking spilled it.
Yeah, well, there's one. Maybe I accidentally spilled it. Maybe when one of you closed your eyes, somebody sneakily spilled it.
The cat jumped on the table and knocked the drink over.
Yeah, we're all coming up with theories of what could happen and logical paths we could take to figure that out.
Right.
Now, spilling a drink, that's harmless, but when you're dealing with things like what causes the rising of the sun and the moon, what causes natural disasters, what causes a baby to be born after I fuck my wife, what causes...
Clearly the gays.
Yeah.
The gays call us all this.
But because we...
We're all gay here, sorry.
Oh, yes. Because our brains are very good at forming narratives and explaining the events around us, it allows us to make up stories about things we can't really explain yet. And
if you add Sage and me, we're together 100% straight and 100% gay.
Yeah, we're both bi.
Oh, sweet. There you go.
Yeah.
Math. Sex math.
Sex math.
And of course, in the ancient world, it meant that if you seen a lion's footprints through fresh mud, you could say, oh, a lion just went through here, a lion just went by. So you would want to be aware of those stories. You would want to have that storyline in order to survive, just in case there's a lion out there you have to watch out for. But now that we have that pathway in our brain, it can be used by religion to make up stories about the illogical, because that's what we've been doing for our evolutionary history.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Another one is the theory of mind. So that's the third part of our psychology that is put together. So of course, the theory of mind, as I said before, it's your awareness that people have other brains than you and that their thoughts, beliefs, motivations, all that stuff can be different than yours.
Right.
So that means that you know that you have a mind and other people have a separate mind that does its own thing. Now, when you combine it with agent detection and forming narratives, that means that you have all the tools you need to believe in and a logical being who has a different mind with different motivations than yourself, who may be an agent you have to watch out for because of danger.
Interesting.
And those are all ancient parts of the mind that are kind of hacked by religious thought and stuff like that. Yeah.
Religion is really made by the brain. It's a secretion of the brain. And this gets us away from the issue of whether religion is true or not true. The fact is that there are 4,200 religions in the world, each of them believing that they're absolutely correct, and everyone should follow their views. And some 90% of the human beings are describable by themselves, if not others, as religious. So we're not dealing here with a casual phenomenon, even though no one has any evidence of the stories behind the religions. Michael McGuire discerned in the matter of serotonin. He discovered that serotonin in primates was associated with high status, and that when animals had high status, they felt better. It's not unreasonable. If you took away their high status, their serotonin levels would crash, their brains would begin producing more cortisol and other neurotransmitters that are associated with feeling mean and feeling bad and feeling low. And so we decided that one of the ways of looking at religion is to what extent and how does it generate the serotonergic juices that make us feel good. Hence, you go to a mass in a major cathedral or anywhere, and there's music and there's color and there's activity, and it appears that people actually get some brain juice out of it. And that brain juice, again, self-created and self-consumed, is the story, we think, of religion.
Now, that's how religion formed in our brains. We had a large capacity to imagine, make up storylines, explain nature around us. You know, when lightning struck and like a hurricane blew your town over, you wanted to come up with an explanation so you could prevent it.
Right.
And in the next episode, when I talk about like the megaliths and like the religious things being set up, a lot of them were after like a natural disaster because they thought a god was pissed off. We better build something big and impressive in order to make them happy again.
It would work for me.
Oh, yeah. There's also a selection pressure to choose a religion in the ancient world. Throughout the ancient world, there have been agnostic societies, and there have been highly religious societies, and there's been like anything in the middle. Historians have basically done a meta-study of all the different cities on Earth, and they found that religious societies, so the higher the religiosity, meant that they were wealthier, longer lasting, with higher lifespans. One historian described religion as the glue that held society together. It was a big reason a bunch of people would stay in one place. It's not a good reason. Like
it had to do with survivability too, because it was pack mentality, right? If you have the bigger pack than the other religion, chances are you're going to survive better than they will.
I still hate it.
I know it's still a shitty reason to believe in religion, but
it makes
worked.
sense. Yeah.
And before Google, people had to sit there and come up with their own reasons for things.
Yeah.
I guess.
Before Google, I kind of like that. I'm going to use that instead of
BG.
BG, as in in 2100 BG.
Yeah, no. I actually had one of my students ask me one time, and they said, like, what did you do before Google? Like, how did you find out information? I was like, well, there's this wonderful place. It's called the library.
Yahoo,
it's got
obviously.
It's got books,
Ask
and you
Jeeves.
look things up in them.
And you looked in little drawers with cards, and you found out what you wanted, and then you found that card. And you wrote it down.
Or you asked adults in your life.
Yep.
And then got some bullshit religious response.
Yep.
You got the wrong answer when you asked my dad. That was how it was.
As long as he said it confidently, that's all that mattered. All right.
Well, that's why this podcast works, is you just say it confidently and they believe you.
Now, in early hunter-gatherer societies, religious rituals saved lives by literally getting people to do religious rituals a few times a day, which just saved calories.
Oh, yeah.
And people sat down for a few hours a day, meditated, did like gentle study, like gentle worship, and people improved their lives through burning less calories and having a time a day to reduce stress, just like modern meditation does today.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Or like in nowadays society encouraging people to get some exercise.
Yeah. Or just like slow down and...
Or Falun Gong. Flashback to an earlier episode.
Now, religious societies had less time for war. They had holidays which they had to attend. They could not do war upon, and they had religious ceremonies, either daily or weekly, that they had to complete, and they couldn't have a war going on all that time. So, highly religious societies were less likely to engage in warfare. And of course,
welcome to the Crusades.
Well, the Crusades are a big example of like religious warfare, but when you're looking at the big span of history.
Okay. I'm kind of thinking back. I believe it is in World War I on Christmas Day,
the
where
truce,
the truce, where they put their guns down and
like
played soccer and sang songs,
exchanged candies and cigarettes.
Before going back and blowing
shooting each other again.
I do remember.
And because they had less war, people had a higher lifespan on average. Less people died in combat on average, which means they went on to make children, which means those societies thrived a little better. Another one was that religious societies often had more children at younger ages. So it's just the same old, like, be prosper and multiply, and religious societies gave a motivation for you to multiply fervently.
Right.
And they grew more and more because of that. They also had generally larger, more dedicated, and better organized armies, because it was an ideal they could all surround themselves around. They could all fight for some dumb god somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that religion itself is a good thing. It's just this convenient thing that a bunch of people can have in common and have a reason to build a city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and our brains are still trapped in the past, still ruled by, like, choices that we made that were good long ago, but not now. For example, would you take the stairs or the escalator?
Well, I'd probably take
it. Depends how high up I gotta go.
Let's say you're going to an average mall and you have to go like the equivalent of 2 flights of stairs.
I climb the escalator.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
go up
depends.
the left side.
Yeah, it's kind of like those moving sidewalks at the airport, where the idea is not to stand. The idea is to continue walking.
Oh
while it moves, you just get there faster.
They got 2 lanes actually. They got one for the stand people and then one for the
I don't know
walk
if-
In what
if-
magical airport is that?
Toronto.
Really?
Toronto Pearson Airport. They have
yeah.
2 lanes with a yellow line down the middle. This side
yeah.
says stand. This side says walk.
Nice.
Nobody ever pays attention to it. And they got these big ass bags that stand in both lanes anyway.
The fact that they're not
the
both
idea is
walk
cool.
kind of upsets me, because it's like, no, if you're just going to like casually saunter through the airport,
Just fucking walk.
Just walk. Get off the moving sidewalk.
You human piece of shit.
It's a strong stance.
And if it's anything like the Midtown Plaza escalators, I think
Those
both
fuckers
sides are
don't
stand.
understand how to
both
move.
lanes are stand on those.
The left lane needs to be a climb. Like if you want to stand, stick to the right. And I've come up behind people who are lollygagging in the left. I said, "Excuse me," and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, get the fuck out of my way.
That was one good thing that Vancouver had.
See, that's
people understood escalators.
That's the thing about escalators at Midtown Mall. They have to be working for you to be able to climb them.
Maybe they're like when you think about the escalators, though. I'm thinking back to like when I was on campus, when from the Place Tunnel up to Arts, and
they took them out.
Well, they took them out because they were always broken, and it was not terrible. It was like escalator temporarily stairs.
It's like 12 stairs. Like, walk it. You're crossing campus already. Like, take 12 stairs.
So on average, about 8% of people take the stairs. And those would be the ones that would be selected against in the ancient world, because they're wasting energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's natural to want to take the escalator because it saves energy. Like, our ancient brains want to conserve as much energy as possible because, as far as they're concerned, the next famine is coming and we got to prepare for that. We got to conserve energy.
Those are my strong Ukrainian genes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything I eat just gets saved, like, just in case.
Let's say we wanted to go... You guys all know where McDick's is on 22nd down there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's say we wanted to go there. Would you walk or drive?
Drive. 100%.
A day like today, I'm driving.
Oh,
yeah, a day like today, I'm driving. But if it's the summer, I'm walking.
But if it's plus 30, still driving.
Yeah, plus 30. But like plus 20, I'd walk.
I'd then walk.
Yeah.
Well, see, those of you that would drive most of the time, you'd just be following your natural urges. Humans used to walk 9 kilometers a day, but out of necessity, they would walk as little as they had to in order to conserve energy. Because don't burn excess energy is a choice that humans had to make their entire evolutionary history. Burn extra energy is a choice we barely ever have had to make except for recently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes or no shoes? So you're going to go walk in a park or walk wherever. Would you choose shoes or no shoes?
No shoes.
Oh, I love shoes. I wear slippers and socks like all the time. Even like in my own house, I wear like I brought a pair of slippers to this recording today.
I wear slippers in my house because it's cold as fuck. But if I'm going outside in the summertime, I don't wear shoes. Ever.
Fucking hobbits.
You monster.
Yeah, so again, wearing shoes, no matter what quality they are, naturally causes flat-footedness over time. Nothing is as good as going barefooted. But we choose shoes because they're convenient. They protect our feet from injury. And protecting ourselves from injury overrides the need for having strong arches and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I got fucking large arches. So.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That explains the no shoes.
Okay, read or don't read?
I read.
Read.
Reading naturally causes weakening of eye muscles, which causes nearsightedness.
Oh. I'm farsighted and I read a lot.
That explains why we all wear glasses.
we used to be long spotters. We used to have to spot prey from across the savannah and track it down. So holding a book like a foot away from our face is not something we evolved to do, so it naturally weakens our eyes. But we got to make that sacrifice, and that's why you see so many people today wearing glasses.
Is that making my eyesight stronger? Because I'm like I'm plus prescription, like super duper farsighted. Like I've got terrible eyes, but I'm like really, really farsighted.
Oh, I don't know.
So is reading like making my eyes better?
No, you're still weakening your eye muscles, so it's not changing the shape of your eye, which determines nearsightedness or farsightedness.
Yeah, I've got like a
You're just
football.
making them overall worse.
Yeah, okay. And I've got astigmatism too.
Yeah.
Right. Would you choose sugar or veggies?
I would choose veggies.
It depends on the time of the month.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Timbits, this is all sugar around this table. Right?
Yep. Tarts and Timbits and this sugary ass
drinks.
Now, there was an anthropologist that said, I bet caveman children would love candy bars just as much as modern day children because sugar is much more calorie dense than vegetables.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a good choice to make back then. Like eating fatty things or eating protein dense things or eating sugary things. That would be a good choice to make back then.
Right.
And that's why so many people are overweight these days.
Well, that's why we choose bread all the time, too, because carbohydrates just turn into sugar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the beer we're drinking today, beer is just liquid bread. People.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's...
Don't die.
So sleeping pills.
So...
They're finally kicking in.
So I kind of led you through a bunch of like theoretical and esoteric bullshit to kind of like construct how religion could be used by the human mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll put a disclaimer on that right now. A lot of that research is still very new because not only are you talking about psychology, which is new science, you're talking about ancient psychology where you don't even have a subject to study. So take this with a huge ass grain of salt. But yeah, putting it all together, this is how religion got into the ancient mind.
You're a human being living many thousands of years ago. You're out on the plains, out on the Serengeti, sitting around, waiting for an antelope to walk by so you can kill it for dinner. All of a sudden, you see the grasses in front of you rustling. What do? Do you stop and think about what must be causing the rustling, or do you immediately take some kind of action?
I would immediately take some kind of action.
I'd immediately take action.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be hiding.
Yeah.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. Or freeze.
Yeah, and you guys are right on the ball. I mean, we all evolved from our ancestors, and those that paused to thought were killed. The lion is just waiting for that deer in the headlights prey behavior to sink its teeth into you and make you into its dinner. Mm-hmm. And that means that we had to develop a knowledge of agency. We had to understand that a lion wouldn't take long to get us. We had to understand that the lion was out to get us and that we had to avoid it. We had to outthink the lion. Mm-hmm. So this sets us up to have an agency for other things.
You think that raindrops aren't agents, Clark said. They can't act on their own accord. They just fall and clouds just form. They're not things that can act, but what human beings have done is to think that clouds are agents. They think clouds can act, and then humans took things to a whole new level, and they started attributing meaning to the actions of things that weren't really acting of their own accord. For example, they thought raindrops were acting for a purpose.
Yeah, so you take that applying agency to other things, and you start applying it to things that don't have actual agency, such as clouds, or hurricanes, or natural disasters.
Or burning bushes.
Yes.
Well, that's why ancient religious civilizations would do rain dances when they needed to water their fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're doing that, when you're thinking that the raindrop has intention, that the raindrop has a reason to do something else is you're also applying that theory of mind to the raindrop. You're saying that raindrop has intentions, thoughts, feelings separate from my own.
The roaring threat of a thunderstorm or the devastation of a flood is widely seen across cultures as the product of a dangerous personal agent in the sky or river, respectively. Likewise, the movements of the sun, moon, and stars are widely explained as the movements of personal agents with extraordinary powers. This tendency to explain the natural world through the existence of beings with supernatural powers, things like gods, ancestral spirits, goblins, and fairies, form the basis of religious belief.
Why do we have religion in the first place? Why are we having this discussion? Because we are pattern-seeking mammals. It's part of our evolution. We look for patterns. We're designed to look for them. And if we can't find a good explanation, we'll come up with a bad one, rather than none at all. Most people would rather have a conspiracy theory than no theory. It's very observable that. There's a lot of junk science around before good science arrives. Before we have astronomy, we have astrology. Before we have chemistry, we have alchemy. All of these things are derivatives of religion, because in a very sinister verse of the Bible that used to upset me when I was being forced to listen to it as a little boy, it says, "Seek and ye shall find." Yes, that's exactly right. Seek and you will find. Seek for an explanation of volcanic eruptions when you're living in a primitive society, and you will think they're probably a visitation from an angry deity. And if you're told you can postpone the next eruption by throwing a few live babies into the lava down the crater, that's what you'll do. Religion has just started. Religion has just begun. Why do some people get the plague and others not? Because they're sinful. Where's the plague coming from in the first place? It's a punishment from God, and or, in early Christian society, the Jews have poisoned the wells.
Humanity used that religious belief to control actions in society, because a society with controlled actions that better suited the greater good thrived better.
Right.
And people that made actions that hurt the greater good damaged society more. There's a concept called free riders, and it's not like freeloaders like the Republicans complain about. These are called free riders. These are people who are in a society that do net harm to the society. They drag it down in whatever way you may define it. Now, what better way is there to control the free riders than an invisible, powerful force with its own wills, thoughts, and desires that can observe you without you seeing it?
Yeah, like Santa.
And that's how gods came to be, these all-powerful beings that can correct behavior of the free riders on society.
Cool.
Well, this is where the witch hunts came from.
Oh, yes. And so I wanted to set that up because it's important to understand the ancient mind and how it thinks about these separate things and how it thinks about spirituality. Because in the next episode, the second part that I had to split it into, we're going to go into Paleolithic spirituality, so the cave paintings, the statues, the megaliths, all the stuff that was built around there. And with this base we got built up now, we can more understand what was going on in their heads.
Cool.
Okay, so with Occultae Veritatis, I'll see you next time. I've been Yud Gallifrey.
Sage Murray.
Leon Filger.
And in studio.
This is Kaylin.
And Richard Bigley.
Goodbye.
Love you, bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
I have to pee.
Our palate cleanser was submitted by Saskatoon local Jacob, and it was written by his uncle, Lucas Welsh. So this is his song, Waiting for Anne.
Okay, so that was the Pallet Cleanser by a good band. So thanks for letting us share your shit. whoever you
Saskatoon
are.
band.
Saskatoon band.
Yeah.
We got a very long email from
My cousin-in-law.
From your cousin-in-law. So I'm going to read the first 4 paragraphs here. It's a long one. Hi from Korea. Dear Sage, Ood, and Leon. I'm Leon.
I'm Sage.
I wrote this last month while I was on vacation in Cambodia and then totally forgot to send it. I'm back to work and commuting, which means listening to podcasts, which reminded me of this. So here goes. Love the podcast. I started downloading them a while ago since Sage is my family. In brackets, Mr. Sage is my cuz, end bracket. But took a while to start listening, but once I did, I started binge listening. I generally skip over the what's your poison section if you're drinking, because I can't drink with my medications. And since I'm that one listener Ood mentioned in the after show a while back that's from Korea, weed is very illegal and not worth the risk or cost here. So I listen sober. What's your poison is kind of sad.
Oh no.
But now I'm on vacation in Cambodia. I'm finally going to be able to enjoy your show in the state you recommend. Somewhat inebriated. Yay.
Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that it's going to make the show better. I'm just going to say our jokes are going to be funnier.
Which may or may not be better.
Yeah. I decided to go back and pick a favorite episode to be my first to listen to stoned. It's not an easy choice. I'm originally a Saskatoon girl, and listening to you has extra benefits. Not only do I love the topics, but I feel a little closer to home. I've been living in Korea for more than 18 years. Holy Christ. So I don't have many connections left in Saskatoon.
Except for me.
Oh, yeah. But after a month of listening, a few amazingly cool things have happened. The first is I've gotten to know my cousin's wife, and she is one seriously cool gal.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah. I think we could totally be friends if we were in the same place.
Yes. Your show has also filled a hole in my life emotionally. I'm going through a difficult life transition. I'm learning to live with a chronic pain condition and being single again after many years. I'm actually quite happy to be on my own again, and I prefer it, but it's a difficult adjustment, especially figuring out how to do the physical stuff that I used to have help with, and I'm not healthy enough to do it on my own. I was having a particularly rough day a little while ago, and I came to Leon's story, and it truly helped me put things into perspective. We all have our shit to deal with, and although my brain knew it, hearing you talk about yours pulled my head out of my own ass and helped me to see more clearly. Thank you for sharing so candidly.
You're welcome.
I also loved your episode on kink and BDSM. Since becoming single again, I've had a blast expressing my kinky side. My ex was fairly vanilla, so that side of me only got to come out occasionally. I'm going to be in Saskatoon for part of the summer. Oh, I'm excited to see you. For part of the summer, and hearing about the community there made it feel a lot less bleak. When you've been away nearly 2 decades and you're in your 40s without kids, staying in your mother's basement with no car, let's just say it's a bit boring. Now that I know there's a good community there, I'll be getting in touch with some people on FET before I arrive and hopefully keep myself busy and meet some interesting people. Yay! I could go on. I actually did write a crap ton more, but it was mostly rambling and not worth sharing. That's what happens when you don't get to smoke more than once or twice a year.
Oh, so she wrote this baked. Awesome.
But I'll stop. I hope I'm in Saskatoon this summer and get the chance to meet Leon and Ood and get to know Sage as more than just my cousin's wife. Fuck yeah, come on an episode.
Yeah. And hell, if you come into the kink community, like I'm helping them organize some events, like I'll make sure you're taken care of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We've got your back.
Oh yeah.
I look forward to many more great episodes. Be well, Soul Gal.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And besides even meeting us, like fucking come on an episode. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah,
for sure.
come on an episode. I'd love to have you.
Yeah.
We got to hang out a little bit a couple of years ago, but I'd like to hang out with you more.
Yeah, make some connections, eh?
Mr. Sage Murray's cousin.
Yeah. Maybe when she comes back to Canada, you can be one of her regular stops. That'd be cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Alrighty. So thank you for sending an email. If you guys want to send some emails and connect with us, we'll read them.
Even if you're not related to me.
ovfeedback@gmail.com.
Yep.
You got it. Thank you.
Or SageMurrayOV@gmail.com.
Yes. Or mine. OV.
No, yours is Ood Gallifrey OV, right?
That's the one. That's the one.
And Leon Filger OV@gmail.
Yeah.
Don't send anything to me because I don't check the email. Just send it to ovfeedback.
Yeah, we'll refer it to him. Yeah. We'll forward it. That's it. Have a good night.
Love you. Bye.
Cheers.
That's clipping like a motherfucker.
That was Jingle Bells. The end.